Hello, friends. 2025 is truly the year of the anticipated release. There are so many sequels to books that I love coming out this year. There are so many new books coming out this year, and a lot of my favorite authors of all time, auto-buy authors, have books coming out this year. It is a plethora of books that I am dying to hold, own, and read. So I decided to do my first ever anticipated releases video. I've never done one on this channel, and I'm going to be doing it all year long because truly the amount of anticipated releases I have is so many. I am going to go broke on books this year. Like, I am so excited for the books coming out in 2025. So this anticipated releases video is going to be books releasing from April through the end of June. April, May, June, just the next 3 months, because there's just too many to talk about like the whole year, plus books will be announced. So we're just going to look at 3 months. I have 20 anticipated releases to talk to you about. 20 in 3 months. Here we are. Anyway, let's dive in to the first one. We're going to start at April 1st, work our way right to the end of June, and talk about all the fantastic books that are coming out. The first 3 I'm going to talk about are all coming out on April 1st. So that's going to be a very fun day for publishing for me. The first one being Olivia Blake's new book, Gifted and Talented. I adore Olivia Blake and will read anything they write. I'm working on their backlist, and Olivia Blake is an auto-buy author. But outside of that, when I read the synopsis of this book, it instantly got my attention. Thayer Wren, who is the CEO of Wren Fair Magitech, has died. He has died at the start of this book, and he has 3 children. All of them are magically gifted. They are telepaths. They are electrokinetics. They have magical abilities. Any of them would be a great person to inherit the company and take over as CEO. The question is, which one gets to do it? And we see them basically duke it out to become the next CEO and the person running the company. I do love a good like inheritance plot in a romance novel, and I think making it magic will like 100% work for me. We have Meredith, who is the textbook eldest daughter, which I always love an eldest daughter in a book because as one, I understand them. Arthur, who is the second youngest congressman in history, and Edith, who used to be a famous ballerina but has spent the last 5 years working under her father at the company. Which one of these will take over? How will they get the spot? There's going to be drama, there's magic, there's intrigue, there's going to be very fun character work because that is what I've come to expect from a Olivia Blake book. Very excited for this one. Then we have a much anticipated final book in a trilogy that I have given all 5 stars to up till this book. I would assume this is going to be a 5-star book. If it's not, what has happened? It's going to be a 5-star book. And that is Faithbreaker by Hannah Kaner. Hannah Kaner is one of my favorite authors. Just from this series alone, I will read anything that she would like to put pen to paper for. Anytime, anywhere, I'm here for it. This is the final book in the Godkiller series. Again, I've given Godkiller and Sunbringer 5 stars. In this series, because obviously I'm not going to tell you what happens in the last book because it's a final book. In this series, we follow Kissin, and Kissin is a god killer. She kills gods. In this world, it is illegal for the gods to be in this land, and she is one of the people tasked in killing them. One day, she is approached by a little girl, and this little girl has a god actually attached to her, and nobody can figure out why. Her mother has kept her hidden. And this god, who is Sketty, I love Sketty. And if you notice, Sketty is on the cover of Faithbreaker. So like, yay. She comes to Kissin and basically asks, can you help me remove this god from me? Because it's illegal for gods to even be in this world. And I have one attached to me. So that makes me like breaking the law. And I'm just a little girl. Like, she just wants to separate. But she also loves Sketty because Sketty's always been with her. So, you know, it's like a mixed bag. Sketty is the god of white lies, and we have big gods in this world and little gods in this world, and basically anything that people could worship or need or wish for can be turned into a god, and gods show up as they need them, and the more people that worship them, the larger the gods become. Anyway, that's where we are. So they go on a journey to separate Inara from Sketty. And they go on this journey. They have Elo who joins them, and they have to go through this. And a lot of politics play into this of what is going on, what is happening, why are we at the point that we're at? How is this God attached to this child? And I cannot wait for the answers that I'm going to get in this final book. I just cannot wait. This next one is probably going to be a little odd for you to think that I'm going to read it, but I loved the first book by this author, so I'm definitely going to be reading the next one. And that is One of You by Erin E. Adams. This is technically a horror. It's a horror mystery, but I do think this is going to work for me because so was Jackal, and I liked Jackal. So there we are. There are some types of horror that I do like, very few, but it's the ones that have explained endings. If everything is explained and makes sense in the world in which you have made, I'm here for it. Like, I love that. Just don't leave me with no explanations. That irritates me. And Jackal had all the explanations, so I'm expecting to have the explanations in this one. In this one, we follow a Haitian family who has migrated to America, and everything seems very normal about this family. Mom, dad, 2 sisters. Mom unexpectedly dies. And I do think the sisters are like older. I think they're like young adults, basically, at the time of this book. Mom dies. And all the family kind of comes for the funeral, comes to, help the family out. The church ladies come, everybody comes. And the sisters are feeling a bit overwhelmed by the amount of people that are around. And one of the people that shows up is called Libet. And Libet says that she knew their mother very, very well, but they have never heard tell of this person before. But Libet does know a lot about their mother, so they have to take her at face value. But then things start happening around their house. Creepy dolls start happening. This is where I think the horror part comes in. Mysterious illnesses start happening, like things start happening, and they have to start to question this person about why they're there and are they there for nefarious circumstances. This next book comes out on April 15th, and it is a murder mystery, which I'm not reading a ton of murder mysteries currently, but I love this author after reading The Bookish Life of Nina Hill, and I will be reading this book as well, and it's One Death at a Time by Abby Waxman. And I do think that this is the first murder mystery Abby Waxman has ever written. I could be wrong, but I think so. So it'll be interesting to see how she comes into this genre. So in this book, we follow Julia, who is an ex-actress who finds a dead body in her pool, and the police believe that she is the one who did it. They are zeroing in on her as the suspect. She is in AA, and her sobriety sponsor is Natasha. And Natasha is like, we need to help Julia. We need to clear her name so that she stays sober. Like that's why they team up to like solve this murder. They decide to team up and they are going to solve the murder of the person in her pool together. This is slightly giving me from like the synopsis Finley vibes, and I'm not mad about that. My last book coming out in April comes out on April 18th, and I'm lucky enough that I already have the arc for this book, so I definitely wanted to let you know about it, and it is Dragonheart by Abby Eden. This is a debut fantasy romance, and it got my attention on NetGalley when they said it was for fans of Sarah A. Parker. We all know how much I loved When the Moon Hatched. So that tidbit and the tagline that followed got my attention immediately. And the tagline, I'm going to read it, it's just on the computer here, was, "The dragons are gone, the kingdoms are failing. Not even the gods can save them now." There were so many buzzwords just in that line. Like I was must request, must read this, look at the cover. Like there's so many reasons why I am anticipating this book. In this book, we follow Arla, and Arla is the assassin to the king, and she does not believe in the gods. She does not believe in their dragons that used to help like protect civilization. She doesn't believe in any of that. But as the kingdoms start to crumble, she thinks they might be the only people who can save them. She then has to team up with the ambassador of the person who is the ambassador to the kingdom that killed her parents, Hark. And it's an enemies to lovers romance as they try and save these kingdoms. It sounds really interesting. There are dragons, and this is definitely going to be at the top of my April list. The next 3 books I have are coming out on May 6th, and the first one is an auto by author for me, Frederick Bachman and My Friends. I adore Frederick Bachman's books. I really do. They always hit me right in the feels, and this one is a dual timeline book, which is not something that he has done a lot. We follow Louisa in the current timeline who has this painting that has found its way to her, and it's of 4 friends sitting on a boardwalk and looking out at like the ocean. And she starts to investigate how this painting came to be. Flashback 25 years ago, and we meet 4 young adults who are having a lot of things happening in their lives, and they come together for one summer, and it kind of bursts this painting that will affect Louisa's life 25 years later. Frederick Bachman, auto by author, and frankly, I will just come with my tissues. Carly Fortune, I read for the first time last year, and I fell in love with the way Carly Fortune writes a Canadian romance. The way the location of Canada was so like intertwined into the story really caught my attention. So I'm really excited for One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune to come out. In this book, we follow Alice, and Alice at the age of 17 went to visit her grandmother at her lake house and spent the summer there and took a picture there of some friends that she knew. And this spawned her love of photography, and she ended up becoming a professional photographer. Now, as an adult, she has to go back to the lake house because her grandmother has fallen, I believe, broken her hip, needs somebody to take care of her. So she goes back to the lake house and re-finds a friend from that summer many, many years ago, Charlie. And obviously, this is a romance, so I believe there is a romance between Alice and Charlie that is many, many years in the making. This next book is actually a sequel to a book that I've given 5 stars, and that is for the Death Cast series by Adam Silvera, and that is The Survivor Wants to Die at the End. In the first book, we follow the death cast system, and basically every night before people like go to bed around midnight, if you're going to die the next day, you get a phone call saying you are going to die the next day. And it basically gives you the chance to do what you would do if you knew this was your last day on earth. But does those things actually cause your death? It's a really interesting sci-fi system. And in the first book, we follow 2 characters that get that call. They meet on that day and actually have a whirlwind romance on their last day of life. And we are going to now follow some other characters in that series. There's also a prequel to the first book that I have yet to read. So realistically, I should probably read the prequel first. So I kind of need to get caught up on this series, but also very excited to read the next part of this series because this death cast system is so interesting. And the way it's written is just steeped in mystery because we don't really know that much about the system. I'm assuming we learn a lot about it in the prequel, which I, again, still need to read. And I'm very excited to continue with this series with the next book that is coming out. I have 2 books that are coming out on May 13th to talk about. The first one, you are not going to be surprised to see this 3rd book, final book in this romance series. I binged the whole series last month in February. So I'm very excited for the final one. That is The Charmer by Ava Rani. This follows Xander, and I adore Xander. Xander may be one of my favorite couples from the first 2 books, or not couples, favorite characters from the first 2 books. Like, I am so excited to read his book. This gives me big time Henry vibes from Icebreaker. Like, he is the BFF to our main character in the first book. And their friendship is very similar to Stassi and Henry. So getting to read a book that gives me those vibes with that friendship is just making me so, so excited. In the first book, we follow a group of friends. So we have Sloane and Marcus. They are our couple. Sloane is sister to Henry. Henry's best friend is Marcus, who, again, they are the love interest. But also Marcus's brother is Xander, and Sloane and Xander are best friends. So there's like 2 friends, 2 siblings. I hope this diagram makes sense since I don't actually have pictures. I'm just pointing to random places on the screen, but I think you get it. In the first book, we follow Sloane and Marcus's relationship. In the next book, we follow Henry, and he has a relationship with someone outside of the friendship familial group. And I really did enjoy that one as well. I gave the first book 5 stars, second one 4.5. Like, I am sold. It's a billionaire romance. I'm enjoying it highly, and I cannot wait to read Xander's book. This is the final book in the series, and he is going to have a relationship with Penelope, who we do know from the first 2 books. Penelope is a pretty integral character. Not an integral character, that's a push, but a good-sized side character. Like, I know Penelope, I'm aware of her. I'm not surprised that she is part of this romance. And I think Xander is going to be just that golden retriever romance that I just so desperately want. And I literally cannot wait. On the same day, we have an Ashley Herring Blake book coming out called Dream On, Ramona Riley. This is a sapphic romance. I have loved Ashley Herring Blake's books in the past. We are not going to talk about the fact that her last release was my worst book of last year. We're not going to talk about that because I'm just going to forget that that existed. I am going to live in the world of Delilah Green and Astrid Parker and assume I'm going to love this one just as much. This one is also a small town romance, which I do love a small town romance. So that is also like a vibe that's bringing me quite excited to this romance novel. So in this book, we follow Ramona. Obviously, that makes sense. Ramona wanted to be an actress, wanted to be a star, but had to move back to their small town after their father was injured, took a job at the local diner, and is still there many, many years later. Dylan comes into town, and Dylan is the child of rock star parents, but wants to prove that they have some skills. And Dylan wants to prove that like they could be a normal person and like have real life skills, basically. That's the plan. So Dylan comes to town, starts shadowing a local waitress. I wonder which one. And a romance happens from there. Then we come to June 3rd, and even though infamously Lorelai does not get married on June 3rd, there are 4 books coming out that I want to read on June 3rd, so it's a good day for me. The first one being Worth Fighting For, which is the 5th book in the Meant to Be series. This is written by different authors, and each one follows a different fairy tale retelling. This one's written by Jessie Q. Santano, which does make me slightly nervous, because I have read a book by this author in the past that I didn't love. So I'm hoping that this being a fairy tale retelling makes me enjoy it a little bit more. I'm going in with very high hopes. I do have the arc of this, so I'm hoping to get to this maybe even before June 3rd. That's kind of my goal. This one is a Mulan retelling, and these are contemporary romances, like I said, written by different authors, so you can read them out of order. You do not have to read them together. This is the 5th one. The first one was Cinderella. Second one was Beauty and the Beast. Third was Little Mermaid. 4th, I literally just read last month, and that was, or actually this month. I finished it this month. I started last month, finished it this month, and that was Rapunzel with Tangled. So now we're on to Mulan. In this, we obviously follow Mulan. We do tend to keep the same names in these retellings a lot of the times. They're like riffs on the same names. And Mulan is her father's right hand at his hedge fund company, and she knows how to make it in a man's world. Truly a queen. So they are in the middle of acquiring a acquisition for an ultra masculine whiskey company. That's what the synopsis says. And that company only wants to work with her father. You know, we know that this is going to be some feminism, some feminist rage happening in Mulan retelling. Like we're here for that. Okay. So she decides to pretend to be her father because her father is now ill and can't do the acquisition, and it's all going to be done through like email correspondence anyway, so she's just going to pretend to be him. It's fine, just sign the emails with his name. However, then they want to meet in person. And she has to go to their cattle ranch and try to win them over as herself. So let's see how this goes. Obviously, I expect there to be some form of romance that also happens at this ranch with somebody from this family. There's very few retellings in this world that I do not enjoy, so I do expect to enjoy this. But as I said, I have read a book by this author before. Actually, I DNF'd it, so I didn't even finish it. So I'm a little nervous about the writing style because that was the problem with the book that I read. But I'm going in with really, really high hopes, knowing that I have enjoyed most of this series in the past. Now, when you tell me that there's a fantasy book coming out that has dragons, and it is Beauty and the Beast inspired, I immediately go, I must read that. So A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim definitely is a much anticipated release for me. Plus, I have seen the sprayed edges version of this, and I am even more excited to add it to my pretty shelves. In this book, we follow True, and True did not necessarily want to become a con artist, but her father dies, so she has to take care of her mother and her sisters and becomes a gifted, con artist who, puts out forgeries of paintings into the world. This somehow leads her to having to enter a marriage contract, so we have, a marriage of convenience, forced marriage situation with this dragon lord, who is our beast in the Beauty and the Beast thingies. And she must join him in his palace and help him unearth the secrets to something that's going on, some sort of treason that's going on. Anyway, it's Beauty and the Beast. The synopsis doesn't tell me a lot of details because I think it's Beauty and the Beast. So, obviously you kind of know the outline of the story already. And Beauty and the Beast meets dragons. Say less. Then we have A Mastery of Monsters by Lizelle Sambury. And again, this was a tagline, you don't need to say anything else once you tell me this, and it's Ninth House meets Legendborn. I needed no further information than that. I needed nothing else. Not a thing. But I'll tell you more about it. But to let you know that literally I went must read, read no other information. That's what happened. In this book, we follow August, and August's brother disappears before his sophomore semester, and everyone thinks it was just the stress that got to him and he ran away. But August knows her brother would never do that. He also left her a note that says to stay safe and protect the rest of the family, which instantly, again, makes her very suspicious as to where he has gone and why. Then August is attacked by a 10-foot creature with claws, and she realizes that her brother may be in even more danger than she anticipated. And the only person who seems to know anything about this creature is Virgil. So she has to team up with him to find out what happened to her brother, what is going on, what is happening. And the only way that they will be able to partner up is if she joins Virgil's secret society. Again, very Ninth House, very Legendborn. It's very much very similar in both ways. I can see why it's Ninth House beats Legendborn. And we also have one of my favorite authors coming out with a book on June 3rd, and that is Shay Earnshaw with The Beautiful Maddening. Shay Earnshaw writes mostly YA fantasy. And I will say some of them are on the younger side of YA fantasy, but one thing Shay Earnshaw does that I just appreciate so much is writing atmosphere that I absolutely adore. The setting of a Shay Earnshaw fantasy book is just so vivid. And even from the synopsis of this book, I foresee that to be the case again. In this book, we follow Lark, and Lark just wants to escape her small town. She's 17. She wants to get away from her small town and escape her family's history. And that history started before the Dutch tulip mania, which I will explain because it is in the synopsis. So they stole these tulip flowers, brought them to America, and when they bloomed on America's soil, they actually created a madness amongst the people around the tulips. And the madness is love. What? I'm so intrigued. Also, the fact that you have, again, plants doing this, one of my favorite books by Shay Earnshaw is In a Magical Forest. And I just feel we're going to have, again, that magical plant situation. And I love when Shay Earnshaw does this, and I'm so excited. Now, generations later, this curse is still happening. And basically anyone who stumbles onto their land near the tulips will fall hopelessly in love with anyone with their family's blood in them. And she doesn't necessarily want that to happen to her. She wants freedom, to fall in love with who she wants to fall in love with, and also to have people fall in love with her for real reasons, not just for tulips. But all these curses do come with a price, and she needs to save the town. And what does she have to give up to save this town that she grew up in? On June 5th, we have a romance sequel coming out to a book that I read last year that I really enjoyed, and that was Whiskey Business. And we have Scotch on the Rocks by Elliot Fletcher. So this is June and Callum's romance, and June has 3 rules. Don't look, don't think, don't even talk to a McCabe brother, okay? We don't deal with them. But that's kind of difficult. When your best friend is in love with one of them, again, we follow their romance in the first book. When the other one is your ex-fiancé, the drama, and the other one is Callum. So she is now falling in love with her ex-fiancé's brother. Forbidden romance. Honestly, the synopsis says literally nothing else than that, but I really enjoyed the first book. I read it sometime over the summer or like early fall. And I knew I wanted to continue with these brothers' romances. I think we follow one brother in each book, so I think there's going to be 3 books. And this one comes out on June 5th. As soon as you see the cover of this next book, you will understand why I must read it. And that is Alice with a Y, Returning to Wonderland by Anna James. Anna James writes a children's series called Tilly and the Book Wanderers, where fairy tales come to life, or that you can dive into fairy tales. Both can happen in that book. And truly, I don't know if this is middle grade. Goodreads does not tell me what age bracket this falls in, but honestly, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to read it anyway, and I'm excited to read it. It is literally just a retelling or a rediscovery of Alice in Wonderland. So there's really nothing to tell you about the synopsis. It is just a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, and I'm very, very excited about it. The last 4 books I'm going to talk about all come out on June 24th, and that's the end of the 20 books, so we've got 4 more to go. The next one I'm going to talk about is Mia Sosa's new book, When Javi Dumped Mari. This is a standalone, however, and it's never listed that they aren't standalones. All of Mia Sosa's books are listed as standalones, but you will see overlapping Easter eggs throughout Mia Sosa's other books. So I have read 2, The Wedding Crashers and The Worst Best Man Ever. Loved them both. Again, you will see little Easter eggs of characters in each one, which is really fun. And I suspect to see that again, considering I am pretty sure I've met these 2 characters as Easter eggs in the other books. I'm pretty sure. So Javi and Mari are best friends, and they, on the eve of their college graduation, said they would never date anyone unless the other one approves of it. So that's just kind of their rules. Javi, though, has been secretly pining for Mari for quite a long time, and now he's getting a little nervous because she's about to get married. So he has decided that he is going to take the next 8 weeks to get her to call off the wedding so that he can declare his love for her. Now, I will say, that is a hard storyline for me to get behind. So it has to be done in a really particular way. Now, I have read books where a similar thing has happened and it has been done poorly and it has been done well. I do trust Mia Sosa to do it well, though. Truly, I do. So I am interested in reading this. And honestly, I plan to read all of Mia Sosa's books because I do just really enjoy the way she writes a romance. One Dark Kiss by Rebecca Zanetti is a sequel to One Cursed Rose that I read last year. That was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, dark romance. Please check trigger warnings before you pick up this series. This one is a Snow White retelling, and we follow one of the friends and side characters that we met in the first book, Rosalie. I'm actually surprised that Rosalie is the next book. There was a friend that I thought we would see their book first, but I'm sure that will be a subsequent book because I do know this is going to be at least a 3-book series. It might be longer than that. This is a Snow White retelling, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait. One Cursed Rose was almost perfection for me, and really, upon reflection, it probably is a 5-star book. I really, really, really enjoyed that book. Again, please check your triggers. I'm not going to tell you anything about this storyline because it is a sequel, and I don't know how much of what happens in the first book bleeds into the sequel. I think some of the running storyline definitely does. There's some mafia kind of romance happening and some families ruling different things that I think probably bleeds into this story. So I don't want to give you too much information on this one in particular, but I really enjoyed the magic system in the first book where each family is connected to a different jewel and can pull power from the jewels that actually powers technology in this world. It was really intriguing and I really liked it. And I'm sure we'll explore it even more in this one. I buddy read the first book with Alicia. I know full well we will be buddy reading this one. And we will be buddy reading it very shortly after it comes out because I know we have already both talked about this. We're when does it come out? When are we going to read it? We are highly anticipating this book. I don't read a lot of thrillers anymore, but Lisa Jewell is one of those thriller writers that I just kind of keep track of their upcoming releases, usually pick them up and then use them for palate cleansers. So Don't Let Me In by Lisa Jewell is definitely a much anticipated release for me. So in this book, we follow a restaurateur and his family, not really him specifically, mostly his family. So one day, Patty, the restaurateur, is minding his own business when someone pushes him in front of a moving train. His daughter Ash and his wife Nina, shortly after his funeral, received packages from his old friend Nick. And these packages are very mysterious, and it brings his daughter Ash and Nick closer together, which his wife is not a fan of. We also follow a woman named Martha, who is married to a man named Al, but Al is very distant and not very involved in the relationship. And she basically is operating as a single parent, single woman. And somehow Al is connected to Nick, and there seems to be something sinister, and they may not be all what they seem and may not be telling everybody around them the truth. And somehow Patty, Al, and Nick are all connected, and we follow these connections and what these secrets are in this thriller. Also, why was he pushed in front of a train? Like, I feel like there has to be more to that story. You don't just get randomly pushed in front of a train. And finally, the last book on this list is actually a middle grade. I don't read a lot of middle grade anymore, but I have read all this series up to this point, so I definitely want to finish it out with Silverborn by Jessica Townsend. We have been waiting for this release for a very long time for reasons. The author had a baby, there was illnesses, like there was a lot happening, and we've been patiently waiting and sometimes not patiently waiting, but it's time. This is the fourth book in the Nevermore series where we follow Morgan Crow, who is a cursed child, or she has always been told she was cursed. Until one day she is whisked away to Nevermore by Juniper and put into a special school for children who have abilities. And she finds out that she's not actually cursed. She's actually very magical. And Nevermore is a very magical city, and it's very whimsical, but there's stakes. And I'm really interested to see how we kind of wrap up this series, because I do believe this is the last one. I could be wrong, but I think this is the final book. Anyway, that is the 20 books that I am anticipating for the next 3 months. Is there a release that you are very excited about coming out in April, May, or June that I don't have on this list? Or if it's one of the ones on this list, like, let me know that you're excited about it too. Either way, let me know about the book in the description box, not the description box, in the comments, because maybe I should be anticipating it and I just don't know about it. There are so many books there all the time coming out, and sometimes I don't even realize that exciting books are coming out. So let me know if I missed one. I did a lot of research for this video, but that does not mean that I have not missed one. If you made it all the way to the end of the video but have nothing to say down in the comments but want to let me know that you were here, leave me the $sign emoji, because truly, when I haul all these books, I will be, needing to go on a book buying ban. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends.